Now that we have an overview of the design, let's move into Autodesk Inventor and start creating the major parts. I'm going to create a standard inch part, making sure the project file is correct. And this is just a representation of the ground that the Pooch cooler will be sitting on. So I'm going to create a rectangle about 500 inches by 500, just to represent the yard that the Pooch cooler is in. Having created the rectangle, I'm going to extrude that rectangle, and in this case just a small distance, about 3 inches. I always like to have the sketch away on the negative Z direction, so 3 inches for that. And I'm going to change the isometric so that it looks a little more realistic. Right click on the view cube and then select Fit to View. I'm also going to change the material. So in the color override, I'm looking for a suitable material. This looks pretty good. Dirt brown. We'll give it a dirt yard to play in. So that's the ground created. I've now added the post that the solar panel will be bolted to. And the post is about 4 inches by 4 and 96 inches long. And I've already drilled a couple of holes in that the solar panel will be bolted to. So it's assembled to the ground. There are three assembly constraints. And I also have it below the surface. You might want to make that a little bit longer. It's about 12 inches below the surface at the moment. For the solar panel assembly, I'm going to show you a couple of workflows. The one that I've supplied was using a more complicated sheet metal environment. I've also supplied a solar panel for you that you can use. It's about 20 inches by 20 inches. Let's look at a simplified workflow to create that solar panel assembly. I'm going to start by creating a part. Once I've created that part, I'm going to create a profile. And this is the end profile of the box that the solar panel is housed in. So it's about 14 inches long. Let's just zoom out so we can see that. 19 inches high. And we're going to come across about 3 inches and then close that profile. Again, what I want to do is just change that so it looks more like the finished part. So I'm going to change the isometric view. And we saw this workflow before. Let's just set the current view as home and then Fit to View. Again, I'm going to extrude this profile. In this case, it's 22 inches. Next phase of the design is to create an area for the solar panel to go in. So what I'm going to do is extrude an area on the face. So creating a sketch and looking directly or perpendicular to that face. Place a rectangle on that face. And having done that, I'm going to center the rectangle using a vertical and a horizontal constraint. This is a good workflow for pretty well anything you do in terms of centering an object in another face. So there's the vertical constraint and now the horizontal constraint. And having done that, I can now extrude cut that rectangle. Once I drag that in, the system knows that I'm cutting, so I just put the distance in, which is 0.5, and complete that extrusion. I've now brought the solar panel that's supplied for you into an assembly along with the other part. I'm going to move that out the way so you can see what happened. That's in that 0.05 extrusion. And I applied 3 mate constraints just to fix that in there correctly. As I noted earlier, the solution that I've provided was created using sheet metal. So let me show you how I did that. This is the outer part of it. Everything is set up by the defaults, the thickness and the material. I'm going to move the end of part all the way up until just that first face is showing. That's how I started this design. I'm now using the flange tool. I'm going to change the angle to 60 degrees. I'm going to change the direction, clearly it's incorrect, and the overall length of that is 3 inches. And click Apply, and you can see how easy it is to create these flanges in the environment. In this case, we can flip that back and forward to check it's correct, and change the distance to 14 inches. Now I can click on OK. So you can see how the workflow would work inside the sheet metal environment. I'm going to delete those two because I already have them in my original design. I just wanted to show you the workflow and move the end of folded part all the way down. And there it is. Now I clearly did a little more work. I created some more faces and added threaded holes, which will be used in the assembly of the solar panel box. Here you can see the completed assembly. I've added 2 more parts, and you can see the solar panel. And I've also used machine screws from Content Center to bolt the assembly together. So far we have modeled the ground, the post, and the solar panel assembly. Now let's look at the control panel box. I'm going to open up that box, and we can see that it's been created using a number of features, a couple of extrusions, a shell, and a hole. Let's look at that more closely. So I started out just with a solid block and changed the material to wood pine. Moving it down 1 bit, I created just an angled cutoff using an extrusion. You can see the sketch that I used, just a little triangle. Then I hollowed that out using the shell command, which is kind of cool. And moved that down. You can see the hole. That's where the wiring will come from the solar panel to go to the deep cycle battery. Moving back to the panel box, let's open up the control panel and see how that was created. I've changed the color of it to transparent so you can see inside. You can see the battery, and you can also see a number of controls such as on-off, and then controls for up and down for the temperature, and a digital readout, in this case set to 65 degrees. I used a decal, an image, to create this, so let's see how I did that. Here you can see the extrusion and the decal. I'll move the end of part up and show you how I created that. First phase is to create a sketch on the face where you want the image to be. I'm going to insert an image, and I've supplied an image called Pooch temperature gauge. Constraints still apply, so I can actually constrain this image to my sketch. So that's the top left-hand corner. Let's have a better look at that. That's good. I just need one of them, obviously. And then I can drag that corner so that it matches in the bottom right corner. Very easy to do. That looks quite good. Now the next phase then is I have to go to the decal command and actually stick that image right on the front face of that block. So you go to the down arrow, decal, simply select the image, the face that you want it to go onto, and it's complete. So if we go over to the browser, we can see the decal has the sketch and the image underneath it. Again, I'm going to delete that one. I already have the original. Complete the deletion, move the end of part back down, and that was the original one that I showed you. So back to the control panel, and we'll see what that looks like. So here we can see the feature with the decal, and again the battery. Going back to the battery box, let's show again the image with the lid visible in this case. I added a control box lid, and I also needed to add a little top edge because there was an opening there. In the video that follows, I will show you how to create the pipes and the remaining major parts of the Pooch cooler.